Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Mental Health Awareness. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful guest today is Dr. Joanne White. We're going to be talking about her many books, Dare to Dream, More Heaven, Hope, Woke, conscious business growth and mastering art success, all of that. But we're also going to be talking about what is neurodivergence and who's struggling with learning differently. I did, so I completely relate to this. And she says people often are made to feel less than because of their differences, whether thinking of communicating differently, their race, faith, or gender. It can set someone up for a self-doubt, failure, and depression, even suicide. She knows what it's like to feel like an outcast. Her teachers believed she wouldn't amount to anything because of her unconventional mirror writing. She had painfully to overcome and override the voices and messages in her head that she wasn't good enough. We don't have to fall victim to other people's judgment of us. We can also shift the internal negative mind and that was installed in us from a very early age and gain some confidence in ourselves, advance, succeed, and thrive. Many people are held back because of the opinions which devalue them. Or unfortunately, they can take on another's belief about themselves, which may be untrue. Most likely is 99% is. It is not only up to us to change that perspective and mindset for ourselves. It's important to honor, respect, and celebrate others' differences as well as our own. She's had to overcome these challenges in her own life, and she's equipped to help others receive their gifts, uncover their purpose, gain more confidence, and positivity about themselves, their lives, their relationships, their abilities, and their mission. You are talking my language, my dear. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be with you today.
Double right back at you. And you are talking my language. I have dyslexia. I see things differently. I learn differently. Um, I am not cookie cutter. I never fit in a box. And I've never been able to conform to quote, quote, normal because that doesn't make sense to me, right? So the outcast, I fully understand, trying to please other people to kind of because you felt less than because you didn't fit into the groups or you weren't part of the pack or you weren't the teacher's pet. You're feeling like, what's wrong with me? Why can't people see or hear me? So it sounds like you kind of went through the same journey.
Yes, I did. And not only because of my mirror writing, which again, I didn't know that there was anything wrong with it. When I first learned to write, I was writing and
Can you
people,
explain what mirror writing is for people?
okay, so basically everything's backwards.
Yes.
And so in order for them to be able to read it, you have to literally hold it up to a mirror. But I didn't know there was anything wrong with it
Some
because
people would say that's gifted.
yeah, it's really funny because years ago, just recently, within the last 2 years, Sarah, I researched what that meant. And there were two meanings. One said you have such horrific problems and mental issues in your head, and the other one said you're creative, and so I chose that one
Exactly. Exactly.
to make
What
me
is the,
feel better.
well, what does
But
the other
you
person know?
but you were also talking about not fitting in. So not even about that time, but later on, even when I was in high school, I was just different.
Mhm.
I remember forming a group of people who were like totally not in the popular crowd, and we were interested in other things, in
Yes.
books, and we just had a good time together, but we were kind of like off to the side somewhat.
Mm. In reading a book, how did you read it? Because it's forward back to backwards, so
No, it was
that was
reading
no
was
problem.
fine.
So it's
Yeah,
just the writing. Yeah. I'm not as dyslexic as that. It's just that I'll get things in the wrong order. I'll say things wrong. I talk like Yoda. You know?
no, it's interesting because when I was going through my PhD at Temple University and I had to take statistics, I had to literally go to the answer and work my way backwards to figure out how I was going to do it. And a lot of learning took longer than probably most people because
Mhm,
we had to, and you understand this, we
mhm.
had to get it in a different way.
Yeah.
But once I was able to do that, it was like, oh, okay, now I see. So
Yes.
it's different. But
And that's the thing is that it's okay that we learn differently. As I was saying in a show the other day about for eons and eons and eons and eons and eons, we trust our instincts. Farmers trust how to read the weather, shepherds, how to read the land, and sailors, how to read the sea, people reading each other. They trusted that intuition. They trusted the heart, soul, and spirit's intellect. And then education came along, and education said, it's from the neck up. It's the
mm,
be all and it's the end all. And we stopped using these other beautiful divine intellects that guide us, that teach us, that show us the way. And in many, many ways, we got caught up in this educational type thing, but very often sends us in a loop because we're not trusting the other intellect. We're not
you know,
listening to it.
right. And we need to. I mean,
Yes.
I love trusting my intuitive guidance. I get messages all the time, not just for
Yes.
myself, but for the people that I work with. And it's such a gift. But
Hmm.
you have to trust it and you have to be able to differentiate what's the
Yes.
mind telling you that may be telling you something totally different versus what your heart and your intuition and your soul are
Mm.
telling you. And when you do that, I mean,
Clarity.
that's yeah, and it's
Yes.
just so beautiful. I
Mm.
share something with you. I remember now, I've also had a TBI several years ago. So some of the I wouldn't say mirror writing, but some of the letter reversal has come back, and I'm not sure if that'll ever leave, but it's okay. It just takes a little bit longer now to write. But I wanted to share something. When I was walking, and my doctor told me I needed to walk, so I was in a lot of pain, and I was feeling like, oh, I don't know if I could go through this or whatever. And I hear this voice in my head. Now, it was a male voice, and maybe it was the voice of my higher self, the voice of God, who knows, but it said, I got you.
Hmm.
Tears are streaming down my face, not out, I mean, just more of a joyful, and I felt like I was being held.
Hmm.
And it was the most beautiful moment, Sarah. And I felt at that moment, no matter what's going on in my life, especially that after that TBI, I'm going to be okay. And that was just such a beautiful gift. Now, somebody could have said, again, if they weren't in our hearts or
Hmm.
intuition, Joanne, you didn't really hear anything. You just imagined that or
Yes.
whatever. But
What
no,
an
it was,
imagination you've
yeah.
got. Yes. 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 And but this is the thing is then I call it the knowingness. It's when we listen to the soul's guidance, which is the universal God, Gus,
Right.
whatever energy, whatever you wish to call it. It comes through as it resonates in the heart. The heart is in truth, and it gives it to the spirit to get into action. And the mind knows what it needs to know when it needs to know it. And it's like a deep breath. It just is.
And it's so beautiful and it's so precious. One of the reasons that I ended up going into business for myself, I was teaching children with special needs and an executive director of a comprehensive program for children with learning differences. And I was also an adjunct at Temple University. And I'd be going into class just before I park my car and going into class, and I'd see a sign that it was actually advertising some alcoholic beverage, but I didn't pay attention to that. But the sign said, "Do what you love."
Mm,
And I was feeling that I needed to do more, that I needed to reach more people in a different way. And that sign to, there are signs for us everywhere,
everywhere.
right? I mean, somebody could say something and it's like, okay, you're talking to me,
Yes.
or a book falls at, and
Yeah.
you get it,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right. So that to me was an indicator that, okay, yes. And I started to pursue that voice in my head, and that sign that said, do what you love, and expanded what I love to do, because I love helping people. I wanted to share one thing with you that I think is important, because it's not just learning differences. Today, there are people that are not accepted because of the way they walk, because of the way they look, because of their religions, so many differences. And I think what a beautiful world to have all those variances. It would
Yes.
be incredibly boring
Ah,
if we didn't. But
droids, human droids, all the same going along. Where would the creativity be? Where would the excitement be? Where would the intrigue be?
right, right,
None of that would be around. Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. It's like, Forrest Gump, life as a box of chocolates, and we are all a different flavor of chocolates. I draw the analogy, which people probably sick of me saying, but it is we're all an instrument learning how to play.
right,
And once we've learned how to play, yes, we can be that soloist, but when we come together in an orchestra, each in our own strength, and we come together in harmony, we transcend our knowledge out to all those that are ready to pick up that frequency. And it is be your beautiful instrument, but also understand you're also part
right.
of that orchestra.
And it's so much more powerful.
Oh gosh, isn't it? Isn't
Yes,
it?
that's the beauty of it. So I think it's so important for us to take a step back. And I think we need to also look at our own judgments. I mean,
Mm,
why am I saying there's something wrong with you? Because of something in my head,
yeah.
because of something that I've learned, because of fear-based. I mean, there are
Mm,
many reasons why we do that, but I think we need to step back and pause a little bit and say, wait a minute. How would I like that if somebody, and I know that very well, if
mhm.
somebody looked at me and said, no, I
It's
can't
the
accept
you
you.
should be, you gotta be, you're only valued if you do that. And it's like
Right.
boulder dash, boulder dash, boulder dash, boulder dash.
Yes.
Because it's and I'm sure with you the way you teach and the way you do things, you've always had those people, you should do it like this and you should do it like that. And I get this, I had this a lot. I've been doing this 11 years, so I don't get this so much anymore. But in the
Right.
beginning, you should do this like this. You've got to do it like that. So and so does it like this. And I say, look, all I can do to be authentic and to be true is to do it like Sarah,
Right.
right?
And you know what? That's the beautiful thing too. No, it's really important but you have to also have a little bit of courage within yourself to access your specialness.
Or
And
stubbornness.
then, right,
Courage
and then
sometimes can be that stubbornness. Another
yes,
word
that
for
too.
it.
But access it so that you can bring it out into the world. And that's really very important. It's interesting because I took on those voices
Mm,
of people that saying, you're not good enough or whatever. And I remember years ago being totally immobilized. My head would say, Joanne, what's wrong with you? You can't do this. You can't do that.
yes.
And
Feeling
I mean, it was
worthless.
right, but it was in my head
Yeah.
and it felt so loud and
Uh,
so real. And initially I didn't know what to do, and I wasn't getting the help that I needed. And I don't know that I even shared a lot of it because it was so
mm,
kind of embarrassing. And I think I was self-conscious about it. But I figured out a way to shift that.
mm,
And the beauty is that now my mind is quiet, Sarah, and it
mm.
says, good job, Joanne. And I'll
Yeah.
say thank you. Right.
Yes. Oh God, do I hear you? I'm saying this all the time. When we're young, it's about how fast we can go, who we can go with the noise. It's got to be done now. It's, the enthusiasm, yes, youthful exuberance, wonderful. As we get older, and especially if we've had a few knocks along the way, we realize it's the silence, it's even in the darkness, it's in the doing nothing that we really receive our clarity and that we really understand. And it's such a beautiful place to be, isn't it? Out of the chatter, and you're, doing something where it's like, that was good. I enjoyed that. Or I've just
I,
written my memoir and rereading it is like, oh God, did I write that? And it's
it's
surprising
funny.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I just read something I wrote a few years ago, and I started to cry. But wow. I
Yeah.
mean, first I thought, who wrote that?
Yes. Yeah. And it's
And then
because when you wrote it, you were present. You
right,
weren't in head. The head had the instruction of how to get the fingers to do the writing,
right,
but it was coming from the heart and the soul. And when we listen to that heart and soul, the whole of us come out, right? And it's a beautiful space to be because we're not dictating how it should be. We're allowing it to be what it's meant to be.
which is so beautiful. You know, many people don't know how to get into that silence,
Right.
especially if, and I'm working with some clients right now where that voice that in their
Uh,
head is so
it's like a
insistent.
mosquito.
Right. It keeps going and it's powerful and you can't shut it off.
No.
And it's scary to a
Yeah.
lot of people because it undermines, again, the gifts that we have.
Yeah.
But we can shut it off.
Mm.
We can get to a place of quiet. It takes time. It's not like, okay, let's do it. Now I even
Switch.
do hypnotherapy, but it's also about working within
Yeah.
oneself, and that's really important.
It is an inside out job. There
Yes, it
is
is.
there is no outside. I think the biggest outside is when your brain decides to surrender to the inside.
Yes. I love that.
Because now the brain isn't trying to be the hierarchy and know it all. It knows it needs to go in and trust the other intellects and be guided as to
But
what
you've
to
got
do.
to, right, but you've got to get the brain to be on your side.
Exactly.
Right. And
Yes.
you've got to work with it so that it kind of is willing. I do something with clients in terms of working with the critic. Okay. And we all have a critic, right? You know that.
Yeah.
All right. And the critic initially, the critic was there maybe to make sure that you didn't cross the street in the
Mhm.
red light
Yeah.
or that you didn't put your hands on the stove when the, to protect you. But then it took on so much power and
Yes.
so much control and that it can overpower us.
Yes.
And it's interesting to be able, because I'm working with some clients with that, where we're having a little discussion with the critic, and the critic says, well, you don't do anything, whatever it says.
Yeah.
And there's a way to shift it so that it becomes your support system.
Hmm.
It may take a little while, it may take some coaxing, but it can work. And then again, you get, oh, great job, Joe.
Yeah. It is repatterning, isn't it?
Yes.
Because we've got to understand, the brain part of it is the mechanics, the reason we can move our
Right.
arms and walk and everything else. The mind is the programming. And the programming has been going on all of our lives and even our ancestors, even past lives. So, we're not going to just, instruct the mind, you've got to now do it this way. It's not going to work like that. It is something that has to be consistent, that we have to consistently be mindfully doing in order to reprogram.
Right. And it's so important to recognize that because it does take some time
Yeah.
because all that other program that you and I are talking about has taken years and
Yes.
years and like you said, beyond our own
Yes.
present moments. By the way, you mentioned past lives. I do a
Mhm.
lot of that too. And one of the reasons I got into that was because I was having these dreams that were so vivid. I didn't quite under it. They felt so real, Sarah. I had to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
So I did.
I'm a, I'm a firm believer that there are no borders between past life, ancestral life, or life as it is, or dimensional life. You know,
Right.
these are all just different energies. It's like, different, it's the orchestra playing the different things, and I dip in and out of them a lot. Have done all my life, and very often just don't know which one I'm in.
Maybe you're in all at the same
I'm in all of
time,
them at
right?
once, exactly. But if they, when we have this kind of consistency, and it was interesting, a little story about my daughter. She was, I don't think, maybe four-ish, somewhere around there. And this was a ferocious little girl by day, bossing her brother and sister around, really confident. At night, she would end up in my bed, petrified of the dark.
Wow.
And so I took her to a hypnosis, and for children specifically. And we discovered that she had been abandoned at least twice in her life
Mhm.
as a child in the dark. Now, when she came out, and she's a very rational child, and today she actually works with people who have brain injuries.
Right.
So, she's always been able to see people from the gut level. She doesn't consider herself spiritual at all, but she's got that intuitiveness of understanding. But I said to her, you understand what happened? Because, she went through the experience, but as we pointed out, that's past life, it's not present life. And I said, but you're safe in this life. No one's going to abandon you. You're going to be fine. And she went into sleeping in her room with the light on. And it didn't take long before the light off and no problem, because she realized if that's not my life, I can let that go. And I think when we understand that some of the things we do or the messages we get or the feelings we have is residual energy from past lives, and we know how to remove it or acknowledge it and let it go, it can free us up. I've freed over 200 past lives, and it's
I,
and whoa boy, what a weight I was carrying around.
I know. And it's wonderful to be able to do that and also to reckon, I've actually had a couple of clients where we've actually shared some past lives
Mm.
together, which is
Yes,
very
yes,
fascinating.
yes,
But a lot of people don't believe in that.
I know.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And when I was first studying it, we had to, after we learned everything, we had to pair up. And I was with someone, and presumably, and you do some hypnotherapy first and go through it. And I was in a cave, Sarah, where the stones were vibrating with music. And I
Mm.
said, oh, this is beautiful, I've been
Yeah.
here. And he kept saying, no, you have to go to a past life. I said, you don't get it, I've been here. No, you have to go to it. So the instructor had to take over. And part of that is, even, we have such conditioning
Mm.
about how something needs to be, even
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to be open to, well, maybe there's a possibility that I'm not even aware of yet.
Yeah.
And that's important, and
Mm.
that gets back to, again, celebrating our differences and being
Mm.
able to, well, maybe I don't understand your language, but there's a language of a smile.
Yes.
There are certain languages that don't need interpretation or translation.
Music is one.
Yes.
Music is so transcending. There has no boundaries or borders, and it speaks directly to the heart and the spirit. And each is like art. Somebody describe a piece of art, somebody describes how a piece of music makes them feel, and it's going to be different because it's what you got from it is what you needed from it.
Right. And dancing too. I love to
Yes, yes. Yes, I miss the dancing. I can't do that anymore, but I used to be a dancer. But that sense of freedom in the movement. I have grandsons now, so it's I see I get kind of introduce them to Marvin Gaye or Blood, Sweat and Tears, or a few blues and jazzies, and I see this little 2-year-old kind of just swing, just moving in that awkward baby way, and it's just adorable. And my
it's
newborn one, he had his femur broken when he came out, so the poor little thing was
uh,
in this horrible vice, and you could only hold him up. And I realized that he likes just, I was just repetitively humming, and I could feel it in his body,
right,
right?
right,
So
right.
yeah, is find what it is. Is it music? Is it art? Is it running? Is it this? Is it that?
And
That
maybe it's a
that speak to you.
combination, right?
Maybe, but
Okay.
You know that's your sanctuary.
Now, what's important, you just said that you can't dance. Years ago, and I wrote this is in actually an anthology that's not out yet, so, but I'm going to share a little bit of it. Years ago, I was teaching dance in senior centers. And I remember going into one senior center, and there were lots of people in wheelchairs. And one guy said, "Well, what do you expect from us?" I said, I don't really expect anything. He said, "Well, I can't move. I can't dance." And I said, "Well, can you move your fingers?
Yeah.
Can you move your
Can
head?
you
Can,
sway? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're dancing." And so with
Yeah.
that, they were dancing
Hmm.
in their own way,
Hmm.
again, whether there were other limitations, but you can still, and I'm saying that to you too, because you and I could dance right
Oh,
now, like,
yes.
yeah,
Get your booty. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just my legs can't hold me anymore, but the rest of the body can go. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but that's still dancing in a
Exactly.
different way,
Yeah,
and that's
it is.
important.
Good
Yeah,
point. Good point. And that is the thing is also, I think, uh, I recently had a conversation with a few people, and it was about someone who every time felt threatened would bring the past out to the current person, which had nothing to do with their past. If they were
right.
present, and how bringing up the past and blaming the present is counterproductive. And so I do these 5 minute little spots that I put out there, and it hit a nerve, a good nerve, finally a nerve that kind of registered. And the thing is, we all do that. We've been wounded, we've been
Right.
betrayed, we've been belittled, we've been all those negative things, and we've we've struggled or had the experience. We all go through an experience, but it doesn't mean we all enjoy the experience. But we can all come out of that experience a great deal stronger, more resilient. Um, Certainly, it can be a journey into finding oneself. But it's to understand what of the past you're going to take with you because it still serves you, and what of the past that you need to let go because it's only going to pull you down. And I think that from all the shows that I've done is one of the common denominators with people of holding on to the pain that has been inflicted on them and unable to let go and see things in a new light.
I think people have a tendency more to hold on to the pain
Yeah.
than to look at the positives, because you'll talk to people and their memories are more so about what didn't happen or what wasn't good or whatever,
Mm,
rather than, again, celebrating a birthday or a
yes.
connection or whatever. And
Mm,
I think, again, we were talking about mind programming. I
mm,
think that's really important to be able to make that shift.
yeah.
I was working with someone the other day, and I was telling her a story because she was a little bit down, and again, what do we focus on even
Mm,
now? So
mm,
we're focusing on something bad that happened or something that we don't have. And I reminded her, I actually had somebody come into my office years ago who had a brand new car, was very successful, whatever, and she was really unhappy. And I said, "How did you get here?" She said, "I drove my car." I said, "Do you like your car?" "Oh yeah, it's brand new and whatever." I said, and how did you get into the office?" "Oh, I walked." "Oh, so you were able to walk into the office, right?" "Oh yeah." "And you married? You had?" "Oh yeah, I love my husband and we have great kids." And again, she had to pause for a minute, Sarah, and
mm.
think, wow, look at all that we take for granted.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I had that head injury where I fell down a flight of stairs. And to me, being able to have this conversation with you and
Hmm.
being alive and being able to, like, sound so somewhat cogent
Yes. I
is a
hear you.
gift.
I've whacked the noggin a few times, a few concussions. Yes.
But it's a gift. And
Yes.
again, we take so much for granted that we really need to put everything in perspective, because
Yeah.
there are some people that don't have feet, some people that can't talk, some people that are living on the street. And hello, wake up and look at the beautiful stuff that you do have and celebrate it, because I think when we do, we get more of that.
The interesting thing is, and I'm sure you've had it as well when you've interviewed people or had clients, those that have gone through the most physical adversity are the most grateful for who and what they have today. I had Keshi, a young girl singer. She was on American Idol, etc. And she was burnt 65% of her body. And song is what brought her back to life, right? And she's so grateful the fact that she could go to university, she could do this and that. Yes, she's disfigured. Like she always leaves me with a nugget. I've interviewed her 3 times, and one of the things, the only trouble is the itching. I itch all the time. You know what it is? You get a tiny itch and it drives you mad. Imagine your whole body. And she has that 24/7, yet she's still grateful for being alive. Right. And then,
Right.
that's the thing. The people are born without arms, but they've learned to play the drums with their feet. It
Right.
is,
And learn
it's the
to
great,
do art.
exactly, exactly. So it is like, why is it that we choose to feed the pain and the misery instead of looking at the joy and the gratitude? Because really it is a shift of perspective, isn't it?
I created a video that's called just that, joy and gratitude.
Hmm. Hmm. Which we need
I
to
can't,
immerse
I'm not
ourselves
going
more
to sing
into.
it. I'm not going to sing it because I'm not, but but again, it's about recognizing, because when we're grateful, we do feel more joy.
Yes.
And when we feel more joy, there's such a connection
Yeah.
between joy and gratitude, and it's a beautiful experience. So to all the people that are listening and watching, look at today, look at
Hmm.
something or a few things in your life that you treasure, your family, your pets, your your home, the food you just had for breakfast or
Right.
lunch or dinner. There are so many
That you
things.
woke up this morning with an
Yes,
opportunity of a new
woke
day
up.
before you.
Hello,
Exactly.
good
Exactly.
morning. Yes,
Yes.
another day,
Yeah.
another whole day.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
are gifts.
They are gifts, and we do take them for granted. But I think a great deal of that is what I've called the outside living. Again, these shoulds. We've placed so much importance on what I call it, societal dysfunction of this, how many likes or how rich am I? How many people love me? What do I drive? What do I wear? What do I look like? Who are my friends? And we've put so much importance on that outside opinion that we have lost ourselves. We've sold ourselves. I've been there. I spent way too many years trying to please people and be what they wanted. And I, got myself into a pretzel and completely lost myself and had to rediscover myself all over again. And realize I am so much more impactful with just being Sarah than I am trying to sell pieces of me off for a like, for an approval, where I lose myself altogether.
I think as you get older too,
Mm.
because I've had read a group of females, and we were talking someday about how when they were younger it was so important to please other people and to make sure that they looked attractive or whatever. And now it's like, this is me.
Yes.
Don't like
Take
it.
me or
I'm
leave
sorry.
me.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry about it,
Yeah.
but that's your problem. That's not
Yes.
my problem, right?
Exactly.
And I
And
think we can get to a place
yeah.
of more acceptance. Hopefully, you
Mm.
don't have to wait till you get older, but it's
Right. Yeah.
important to
Please don't wait. For
no,
me, way into the 50s. I had different parts of my life where I was totally me and kind of a little bit out to lunch of who me was, because I was in my own little land. And then it became this, the people I was around is you're just not enough. You're not academic. I didn't finish school, so you're not academic. You're uneducated. You're not thin enough. You're not this enough. You're not that enough. And then you buy the not enoughs. The problem is if people can't see you for the essence of who you are, you're with the wrong people.
exactly. And what's so important is it's about valuing who you are
Exactly.
and
Not through
doing
somebody
that.
else's
Right.
opinion,
No,
through your
I mean,
own.
well, and somebody else may only see you in a very limited
Yeah,
light. they may see the fact that you have a hat on backwards or something, right? And from there that judgment goes forever,
Hmm.
rather than really knowing all the facets and all the
Yeah,
intricacies of who you are. But that's why it's so important to really look at our gifts. And I'm
yeah,
not just talking about the external ones,
no.
I'm talking about the ones that everybody has. We all have gifts. I
Mm-hmm.
was working with someone who actually is an autistic savant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and beautiful, and she does art and science
Mm-hmm.
and combines them. And to hear her tell some stories about her youth and her childhood and how she had to overcome a lot, but also recognize the beauty that's within herself. And it's so important to get to that place of self-acceptance. And I think when we do that, it's almost easier then to accept other people because we've
Yeah.
taken that step of our own sense of discernment and
Mm-hmm.
lack of judgment to,
Mm.
judging rather,
Yeah.
and then we can look at other people from that perspective, which is so very, very important.
I've interviewed so many autistic people. I've got one coming up, and one of them recently, he became a DJ. He's a postman.
Oh
He
yeah.
became a DJ, and like he's the old-fashioned DJ, ringing up the next song to you, and his world. What I realized is they're incredibly focused, they're incredibly gifted, they but they're also incredibly selective of who is around them. Now he's just become a dad. Literally this
Oh,
week,
how
which is
beautiful.
wonderful to see. But I interviewed a couple of mums of autistic children, and they were told to institutionalize their children and go and have another. And they were at that time in space where there really was not the support groups that there are today. And
you
my
know
daughter,
you
well, I'll just
no
finish up. My daughter's just
yeah.
had a baby, and he has Down syndrome.
Mhm.
And not only is he born to the right parents, because both of them are completely loving and hands-on, and we just love this little boy, but she's also born to a time where there's so much more support and less judgment. And I think
Right.
as we are growing as a human race, some not, some people never will, but given the opportunity to understand, we have become a lot more compassionate of the differences and realize, don't judge. There's nothing wrong with that child. They're just differently abled.
I like that, differently abled.
Mm,
My book, More Heaven, because every child is special, is
mm,
based on that experience. Years ago, there were many children that were not allowed in the United States public school.
yes,
Basically, and we're talking about millions of kids because
yes.
many of the school districts could say, well, we don't know how to teach them.
Mm,
They're too difficult. So a law came out and said, hey, we're giving you money. You need to
yeah,
be able to figure out some way. Now, I'm
mm,
not talking about every kid,
right.
okay? And I was a special education teacher beforehand, but so many kids, if their parents didn't have money to educate them, and
Mm,
obviously at that time, even going outside in the arena where publicly they
mm,
were ostracized was a big
yes.
deal. So I was hired as the first teacher in the Philadelphia school system
Mm,
to work with these kids. The first little girl was autistic, and they were afraid. They sent her in a taxi, Sarah,
well,
because they were afraid to put her on a school bus because
right.
of what she might do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not because of what other people
Ah,
yeah. Now, at some point, she was actually attacked because of her differences at her.
mm-hmm.
But again, many people at that time didn't want the program to work. Even parents were afraid. Teachers were kind of like, I don't know. And it was like, not only did we have to prove that these kids could learn and be accepted and whatever, but again, it was to demonstrate that no matter what, it's so important to
Mm,
embrace, like we're still talking about, differences
yes.
and be able to recognize, well, maybe because that kid doesn't learn the same way that you do, you can't say that he doesn't learn.
or
or
that he's not valued as a contributor.
right,
We're all
right,
contributors on this planet. Every single one of us is meant to be a contributor. And who are
yes,
we to say, well, you have to do this to be a contributor? You know, that a Down syndrome child could simply light up your day with their smile, right?
yes.
That is contributing, right? As again, so many autistic people that I've interviewed that are incredibly gifted in what they do and very productive. But I know somebody else whose daughter not only has autism, but she has OCD and she has something else as well. So she has many problems. And there will never be any, quote, contributing functionality, except as an ability for people to learn how to help her. So
And that's
she,
important.
and that's a contributing factor in the
Right,
way there too, right?
right.
Because it's not her fault that she was born this way. All the parents. Don't blame the parents. Don't blame the child. There, nobody's done anything wrong, right? It is just circumstantial of how this child is.
And you're saying something, parents were blamed years ago
Yeah.
for the fact that
Yes.
there was something wrong with their kids.
Right.
And like you said earlier, many doctors said, well, that your kid belongs in an
Yeah.
institution. We can't do anything for that. Can you imagine a parent having to go through that and again recognizing her child, his child, having these gifts that nobody can see, but
Mm.
and they're saying, well, let's lock this kid up because
Throw them away. Throw them
yeah,
away. They're
no, no,
defective. Throw
no
them away.
value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No,
Horrible.
no sense of value of life, or understanding the differences of life, or the gifts that come from each one of those lives. It is very frustrating to see, how ignorant we have been. And in many ways, henceforth, you being the first one in Philadelphia to help, teach or gifted children. I actually have a series called Raising Our Gifted Children, and which is across the board. And I have a book which I want you to please participate in, coming out of our
I love
Forgotten
it.
Children series, which is what are we doing wrong with our children? The reason why we have dysfunctional adults is because we're not paying attention to the raising of our children.
You know, I was walking, I love to walk, and I'm watching a parent walking two little kids. Here's an opportunity to look at the sun, to look at what's around, to have a conversation. The parent is on her cell phone.
Yeah, I
And
know.
it's like, seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't take those opportunities where we could be teaching and interacting and having wonderful communication and wonderful connections if we're constantly looking at a cell phone, and rather than again everything that's around us and what's important and
I think kind of becoming a grandma, I don't know about you, I don't know if you're grandma or not, but it was a different feeling because when you first hold your child, you go, I'm responsible for this child you think for the rest of its life, because that's, once
yeah,
you're a mama,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, when you hold that grandchild, it's like, I can completely and utterly smother this child with love, and I'm not responsible for,
Right, right.
except for I'm going to be moving closer to my daughter to be a part of my grandchildren's lives. And I'm there very often. I'm there every couple of weeks for a few days. And I love every bit of it. And my little 2-year-old grandson and I have, I bought a car seat to go in there, and we have a special group that we go to, a play group that we go to. I take him out for sushi. We go off and do things together. And in the car, we sing, or we point out the cars, or we do something. We've got our own little special relationship, which I
Yeah,
absolutely cherish.
right, and many grandparents have just that because
Mm,
it's just special. And
it
again,
is.
I can be more playful, I could be, whatever that
Yeah.
because I'm not the parent.
But we're also, again, I think we bring that wisdom. We bring,
Oh,
we
of
bring we
course.
bring things that
Right,
we've learned. I
right.
haven't got that energy I had when I had my 3 kids. And, my daughter said to me, like, this is when she had the first one. She said, how did you do it with 3? And I said, I don't know. I just did. You didn't have
You
time
do
to think
what
about it. You just
no,
dealt
you
with what was
do
in front of you in the
right. You
moment,
you
right?
have to do what you
Yes,
need to do, and you
yes.
step up to the plate, and that's really very important.
And I think as a grandparent, we can
What's
pause more.
important today? Right. And what's important today is to really recognize that there are so many opportunities, and I'm kind of being a little redundant here, but I want to make a point where I mean, I was even just about 2 hours ago, I was walking and this woman had a dog and she was looking at her phone and there was a car that came really fast. So I moved. Because I moved, the dog
Move
got a
to.
little scared. No,
Mm.
the dog and growled and the
Uh,
woman was
yeah, I
oblivious.
know, isn't it?
And then she
Oh,
said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I said, probably under my breath, like, "Well, you should have been paying
paying
attention."
attention. Exactly. You know, I mean, my phone is with me, and when I stop, I look at it if there's messages or this or that, but it is about as you know, what is the biggest problem that we have in disconnection is not being present. And if we're not present, like, yeah, there are times, I have people that work on the phone. I can say to them, no, thank you for the message. Send me the details in an email. That's where I
Right,
do my work.
right.
I'm not going to be the slave to the phone. Plus, I don't know how to use it to do this, that. I can't create a show posting on the damn phone. So no. So you're lucky I can do it this way at 68,
Right.
right? So
No, I understand. I understand that. And but that's important because we don't want to lose the connections,
mm,
the interactions, the specialness of all of us. And again, I love the fact that we have technology. I'm a little
yes.
bit afraid of AI at the moment. I'm
Oh,
not sure about
literally, it
that.
was brought up in the news last night where they're talking about we had you heard about the scare that it was to do it looked like part of a building near a building had been blown up and that bomb scare and it actually sent spiral down um, a stock exchange. And it just blew something out and it was a hoax. And so, how it used to be a picture said 1,000 words? Well, we can't trust the picture anymore and we can't trust the words anymore. So it means that we're actually going to have to be even more face to face to know where the truth is.
Which is, I like that,
Yeah.
but again, all that other stuff, again, and I love to write. So
Mm.
I was looking at something. Well, you don't have to write, AI could do all your
Yeah.
writing.
And
And
where's
there's
your truth? If it's writing it for you, right?
well, but
Where's
there's
your
some,
voice?
you're right. And there's something about writing and connecting to that intercept,
Yes.
whether it's writing or dancing or
Yes.
art or whatever it is, whatever your
The
soul is.
essence of you. Yeah.
Yes, that I don't want that to be diminished. I don't
No,
want that to be taken away from me.
no.
No.
You don't want a sterile voice saying it for you.
No, and it's going to miss something. Plus the joy of creating,
Yeah.
and you know what that's like. That's part of the process. The listening to your inner
Yeah.
voices, to getting that guidance,
Yes.
feeling it coming up in you. It's a gift.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not giving that up.
Do you remember back in the day, we were so scared of, robots taking over, iRobot and the androids and the this and that. They've taken over, folks. It's called phone. It's called AI. It's called our dependency on social media. It's already taken over. It's already got its hook in you. And now it is taking over to the point where it's going to speak for you too.
Nope.
Yeah. But we're the generation where we still value the voice, the face-to-face voice or the
Yes,
true voice. We want to know the soul, gut, heart, spirit's voice of you. But we have a generation, as you said, walking along on their phone where they've become slaves to that and they don't realize that they are now at the mercy of that they are. And that means they'll buy anything that they see that AI puts out. And this is how it starts. And, it's who they're even actually talking, people who even kind of use AI have said, we have to be careful. We have to put boundaries somewhere of where it can be used.
right. Well, also, who's programming it?
Yeah.
And then what happens if it goes off on its own and then it doesn't?
Yes.
I mean,
iRobot. Yeah. Yes. And the thing is to think is that we think that's far-fetched and in that perhaps capacity, yes, but it's not the robot itself because you look at all these actual physical robots and they can do wonderful things and we can do incredible things with 3D and arms and
right,
apparatuses and all of
right.
that. Fantastic. But the actual physical robot being there with that kind of intellect and taking over is still quite far away because they can't get the mechanics going. But they don't
Yeah.
need to because they've turned us into robots.
Oh, yeah. Well, you and I are not
No,
robots.
good luck. Good luck. They won't be able to program this because this is defective. Yeah. No. And I think there's an awful lot of people that are kicking back. I have three millennials, and what I'm seeing and now with the younger people that I interview, there's a raising of consciousness, which I
Good.
absolutely love. It has a twofold to it. One of the raising of the consciousness for certain people, they're suddenly waking up to all the horrors that's going on in the world, or maybe that they've contributed to unknowingly, and they're going through that kind of pain of, my God, how awful, and they need to go through that process, right?
Right, right.
And then you've got the other people that are woken up to it and going, oh my God, we've got to do something about it. We've got to start caring. We've got to start being there for each other. We've got to place the importance on all living things, including the planet.
Thank you. Yes. Can you imagine what life would be like without birds? I actually sing to the birds. I that joy
Mhm.
and gratitude song,
Yeah.
I actually tailored part of it to the birds about grateful for your wings? Are you
Yes.
grateful you can sing? Are you grateful for the sunshine in the sky? And it goes on and on. And when I'm walking and I'm singing to the birds, Sarah, they're not flying away.
Right. I do that to trees when no one is around.
I hug trees.
Yes. Yeah, we're those kind of people, folks. But
A little strange, but hey, here we
no, but that's the thing is that, to a tree hugger or to somebody that sings to nature, we hear nature singing back. I
Oh yeah.
remember going down an avenue of trees with my dog one time, who I miss dearly, and the trees were all rustling like crazy. And I said, gosh, you're being loud today. I can't hear you. The trees stopped. Not a leaf rustled. And I said, now speak to me softly.
Now I remember looking outside and there was a bird and the bird and I are having this little singing interaction for a moment. It was like, wow, and
Mhm.
wonderful. My Selena, who was a beautiful Siamese and she lived for 17 years.
Wow.
I would sing with her, Sarah.
Yes. Yes, they
I,
loved it.
right. I never recorded it. I'd sing, I love my Selena. She'd go, rah, 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 and she loves me. Rah, 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 rah.
I love it. I used to sing to my dog, a border collie, in the car, and she would look at me with these doe-loving eyes and put
Oh.
her paw on me as I'm singing, and thank you, mommy. But actually, that's just a quick story of another border collie I had that saved my life. I was living in South Africa and I was put on an antidepressant because very often when you are empathic and you're a feeler,
Right,
you get
right.
empath depression, which they
Yeah,
just put down as clinic depression. And I
yep.
was on this new drug and it made you hallucinate. And I'm driving on this very rocky road, which has a sheer drop down into the ocean, down rocks all the way. And there's a bend where people could stop and look out, and it's really beautiful. But a lot of people have committed suicide driving off there. Why they never put a bar there, I don't know. Anyway, I'm, singing away, and my dog barks at me, and I bark back at her. And then she paws me, and I paw her. And we're coming up to that bend, and she takes her whole body and throws it on top of me.
Wow.
It's a stick. So I come to a stop because everything comes out of gear.
Right, right.
I am about 6 inches away from the edge.
She
And
saved your
and I
life.
snapped out of it and realized what I was doing and everything. And she just lay on top of me until I calmed down. Right.
Amazing. I have a dog story too. I have a friend that has this beautiful dog, and one day we were sitting on my friend's porch, and the dog is between us, and there's this bug that was going around the dog's face. So I went like this to try to get the bug away. He growled at me. We both were in shock. And then turns to me with these beautiful, soulful eyes, puts his paw on my hand, looks at me as if to say, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
And I said, oh, I'm so sorry too. I didn't mean to scare you.
Yeah.
But those
Yeah, I
moments
know. They speak such truth. And that's the thing, if you're not present, if you're not engaged with life, you're going to miss those moments. And those moments are profound. They speak volumes. They are the most incredible connection that you can have. Child, animal, nature, tree, ocean,
yes,
wind,
all of it.
whatever. All of those connections are just begging to connect with you. And if you're not paying attention and you're not present, then you're going to miss it. And you're going, but where are the answers? Put your damn phone
They're
down and
everywhere.
pay attention. Yes. Exactly. They're everywhere. And it is just for you to get out and participate. People are, when my coaching, my heart is broken. I don't know how to love again. How do I ignite the heart? And I said, get out into nature. You cannot walk amongst nature. You can't see the dogs chasing a ball. You can't see a little kid chasing the dog. You can't see the birds in the trees and the rustles of the leaves and the water on the shores. You can't see all of that without feeling something.
And that's so important. I love to go out in the world and make kids smile. And I
Mm.
have a hat with bird feathers. And they're gifts, right?
Yes.
I mean, I find the feathers, but they've been gifted to me. I feed the birds. And
Why
one
do you think
time,
the Indian nation has so many feathers, right?
yes,
They're,
exactly.
they are
Right,
the spirit
right.
gifts. Yes.
Yes. And one day I'm in a supermarket and I'm wearing my hat and this little kid is crying and I go over, I take my hat on and off and doing that. And the kid starts to smile and calm down. And I thought, okay, and I walk away.
Yeah.
And again, those moments of
Yes.
being able to connect and give somebody else a moment of pleasure or a smile or whatever it is they're priceless. They're really
I
priceless.
think we need to pay more attention to moments.
Mm,
We're busy looking for grand. It isn't in the grand, it's in the
no,
moments.
yes.
Right? And it's those moments, it's like we cannot live in euphoria all the time. We're looking for the sugar high, the big heights, but with the big heights come the big lows. It is about the frequency. Even the DNA is in a twirl. The frequency is constantly up and down. It's in the wind, the ocean, everything has a wave to it, and it's riding that wave. And then you don't go down into the deep gutters, and you have these heights of that is beautiful, but you never lose it because you don't go down into the
Right.
pit.
And it's not just the movement, that
Mm.
it's the rhythm and the
Yes, rhythm of
music,
life.
even
Oh,
right. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
Beautiful.
it is. And it is up to us. And it's like, why do we have people who are differently abled? And this came from somebody I interviewed some time ago, talking about disability. And she said, I don't call them disabled, I call them differently abled. And I adopted that ever since because I think it's beautiful and more respectful. But it is, why do we even become differently abled in ourselves? If we're given something, which I have, and there's always a reason for something. And instead of looking and go, why me? And go, okay, why me?
You know,
What am I meant to
right,
do with this?
right,
What is
right,
it for? What is the reason with it? Because there's always a reason for it. It's not out to
right.
punish you.
I had injuries to my knees years ago, and I wasn't able to walk, and I wasn't able to do a lot of things, and I wasn't getting the help that I needed through traditional medicine. So I sought alternative ways to heal
Mm.
myself, which which I eventually incorporated into the work I do because it helped me heal.
Yes.
But again, that was a gift because
Yes.
if that didn't happen to me,
Right.
I wouldn't have looked further beyond what was there
Right.
to see what could be and what could, what bloomed into a very interesting career that helps people
Yeah.
who need a different kind of support or a different way of healing. And
Exactly.
again, we have to be able to look at the gifts even within the challenges that we go through.
I want to talk about your books,
Okay.
uh, the many books that you've written here.
Let me see
Um,
if I remember.
so, um, glasses go on so I can see better. So, you've got Dare to Dream, which, I mean, so many people don't dare to dream. And it's like if we lose our dreams, we're losing our reasons. The dream is something. that is that beautiful guidance system to pursuing something. And if we don't dream, we don't pursue.
Right.
So tell us
That,
more about that.
okay. Well, that's an anthology, so I have a chapter, and that's where I really opened up about my differences. Maybe it took a lot of years to get comfortable being able to share all that, Sarah. Who knows? But again, what's so important about that, and also the other authors, is that what you said, we have gifts within us. And if something happens, or if other people don't see our gifts, and for some reason we can't move forward, that's a shame. And
Yeah.
so this book is about so many people that have gone through different kinds of challenges, not necessarily the ones that I went through, and were able to overcome them and move forward. And that's a beautiful blessing.
Yeah.
So in that book, I talk about my mirror writing, and I talk about my intuition and my ways of moving beyond other people's judgments of myself to live my life and feel good about finally.
Yes. Finally. Why did we waste so much time? Yeah.
Yeah, good about who I
Yeah.
am,
Yeah.
and also wanting to share.
Yeah.
And that's important. So, and that book has just been out in the last few months. It's one of the more recent ones.
Yes. A mission hope.
That's another anthology, and it's interesting because again, beautiful other authors. I talk about a little girl when I was when I was about 17. There was I was working in a camp, and the person who the director of the camp opened up one group of kids with special needs, and I became the counselor. I volunteered. I knew
Hmm.
nothing about kids with special needs. I was a little bit afraid or whatever. There was one little girl who had bites all over her arms and in her mouth. That's what she did. And nobody wanted to go near her.
Hmm.
Nobody valued her. Even the kids that were in the group just kind of wanted to stay away from her. And I figured out a way to work with her through singing, through massage. And again, it was all very intuitive,
Yes.
through massaging her cheeks, and she started to blossom.
Mm.
And I was going to go to school to study English literature, but because of that little
Hmm.
girl and because of that group, I changed my major
Hmm.
and got my degree in special
You
education
see
because
that
yeah,
wonderful pivot, that lovely redirection. We
yeah,
think
and
we're
it
going to
was
do this, and
yeah.
you allowed yourself to be redirected. I love it. Absolutely perfect.
But
Uh,
again, it was guided too,
yes,
right? I mean,
yes, exactly.
yeah.
Pay attention because the signs are always there, always. So mastering art success.
Okay, so that was written some time ago. Basically, it's about what we need, success. What is success?
Hmm.
And I talk about the heart and soul of leadership.
Mm.
And basically, what's so important is for us to define our own success. At the end of the day, do you feel good about what you've done? Do
Hmm.
you feel that, and it doesn't have to be some huge thing. It could be something so small. I hugged my grandchild,
Yeah.
right? Or I made you okay. So, and that's really important that we don't have, and we've been talking about this the whole time, that we don't define our success based
Hmm.
on some external thing, that it's a
Exactly.
sense of self-gratification for what we're doing, and being true to our values and really true to who we are. And
You saw me there when you said heart and soul in business because I have a business genre, and what is absolutely wonderful,
that's the title of my chapter, by the way, The Heart and
right?
Soul of
Well,
Leadership.
what I'm seeing now, which I absolutely love, is in business, people are becoming more and more aware of that come from the heart,
Yes.
respect the soul, right? And that it will allow you to place value on people and planet resources, and the profit will come, right?
So it's
Love it.
not just about the profit. It's
Yes.
really about, again, honoring the people and be, I've done a lot with corporate too and working
Mhm.
with businesses and work with leaders. And how are you valuing your staff? Are
Yes.
you listening to their voices? Every one of them
Yes.
can be able to bring something to the table
They're all
if,
part of the orchestra, right?
yes, again.
Yes.
And so that's so very important.
Is your conscious business growth, is that another one you have a chapter in?
Yes. I'm trying to remember that chapter.
But obviously it's in the title, conscious business growth,
It's
right?
about that level of awareness,
Mhm.
what you're in terms of what you're doing, what you're creating. And again, the teamwork, the team that you're
Mm,
building. Are you taking into account their needs? Are you listening?
mm,
Oftentimes there's a leader that said something, but are you really, sometimes some of the people that you're not paying attention to have some of the greatest ideas that can move the business forward if you only listen.
I always say is that, when you walk into a building to see the CEO, the most important person there is the janitor. They've set the stage.
Right.
And if the place isn't clean and welcoming, then people immediately go, oh, and their opinion of the CEO and the company changes considerably. So, and also listen to the janitors because they have ears and they hear everything and they've got some great opinions, right?
That reminds me when I was first teaching kids with special needs, and the only person that would talk to me, this is many, many years ago, was the janitor.
Hmm. Yep. And
I felt safest with the janitor because I was programmed with the kids that I was working with. Okay, so you're all there
yeah,
and I'm going to pay attention to you, but the janitor didn't
right,
think that
right.
way.
Exactly. Good old janitors. So more heaven.
That's the book. That's my baby.
Hmm.
That's based on that experience of opening that class that in Philadelphia, the public school, with kids that were again not allowed in school, were seen to be not worthwhile or whatever. And at that time, I used a lot of unconditional ways to reach them. Music,
Mm.
dance, what
Hmm.
play, whatever it was. And these kids blossomed, and we opened up 2 more classes within the next few years. So
That's why you got to be in the book, definitely. Woke, a big word that goes around nowadays and kind of has become like Fox News's, woke, 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 woke. I'd say they take a pimple and make it into a volcanic eruption, and they've certainly erupted woke.
Again, that's an anthology, and that's where I'm talking about my injury, my dancing injury
Mhm.
years ago. And again, how intuition led me to find alternative ways of healing and being able and some people that I work with. There was a woman that I worked with who had this beautiful voice, but she was afraid to use it. And she had all sorts of physical challenges that the doctors could not figure out what was going on with. And I said, you're given a gift. I can't sing. I mean, I do sing, but not like you can
Yeah.
sing. And it's you're given that gift for a reason to use it. Maybe it's not to like be out in the world, in
Right.
a large way. Maybe it's just to sing with your children or to
Mm.
sing with a
Your
group
own
with
healing. Your own
yeah,
healing. Yeah.
yeah. So she started to pay attention and to use her voice, and she healed herself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And again, sometimes it's like we're holding back from something, and if we could just open up to it and recognize that there's a way through that to the other side, and that's a message, even though now I can't do that. No,
And be damned with somebody else's opinion, right? Listen to the message. Yes, yes. We don't want, I don't want to appear foolish or silly. Or what will people think? To hell with what will people think? How will you feel?
and that's the beauty of it. If you feel good about yourself, you're going to be shining out there in the world, and other people are going to see and feel that light. And that's important too, because that's also a way I'm very much into let's heal the world. And part of that is being able to bring out our gifts, our light, our essence, our compassion, and share it in a wonderful way with others.
And you've got so many other books here. You've got Sense, you've got
Well, I want to talk about that for a little bit,
mm,
because
mm-hmm,
sense your way to life satisfaction
mm-hmm.
is also about opening up all our senses, e-
Yes.
even the intuitive sense, and being able to amplify that in so many ways. And I have exercises in that book, because I remember was somebody that I knew lived by a pond, and initially she and her family would visit the pond, but then it was like, okay, right? We were talking about nature. Well, and how could you not celebrate the fact that you're near this beautiful,
Mm,
wonderful resource in it?
yeah.
And again, why aren't we paying attention to
Hmm.
what our senses are telling us and
Exactly.
gifting us? So
You've got so many other books here. Gratitude,
I
Victoria
love to
says.
write.
No, right, I can see that, and which again, kind of with mirror writing and things like that, it's like you haven't let anything get in your way, right? You've just found a way. You've got soul manifestation, you've got surviving a breakup, gratitude during excess, bully free, breaking up. You've got audio CDs, restore, focus on success, journey into relaxation. I mean, like so much here, contributing forwards and thriving after trauma. There is an after, empower your life. I mean, yeah, where do you find the time?
I don't know.
And here me is just saying you're doing
It's
another
a
chapter.
good question. Yeah, and I'm also working on my a book about my head injury.
Right.
So,
And
but
that again is like, my kids laugh at me, because they know I've had quite a few concussions and I've always had bad balance, always, all my life. And I've fallen many, many times and I always seem to fall in the same place, hit my frontal
mhm.
lobe. And I've had many concussions and post concussions and things like that. And then, the kids tease me, that explains a lot, mum. You and it's always weird when you do, but it kind of, in a very funny way, it's sometimes that fog that you get where you're not quite connecting to things is a nice place to be.
Well, during that time, even though I wasn't able to put sentences together, or I was trying to be on a friend's show one time, a podcast, and we weren't recording it at the beginning, and it's a good thing. Because I couldn't finish sentences. She would ask me a question, Sarah, and I'd start and I'd pause, and there was this silence.
Yeah.
But during that time, my creativity
Yes.
was soaring. It was
Yes.
like, oh my God. I mean, so again,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
gift of all the pain and the trauma and whatever, it was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of saying, it's not brain damage, it's brain awakening.
I remember saying to a friend, in all this pain, there is such brilliance.
Exactly. And I look at, I was a very sickly child growing up. I got the Asian flu went round England when I was 2, and I ended up with chronic asthma and eczema, and asthma still have today. And every time I got a cold or a sniff or a cough, in bed for weeks on end. So it was a question of go mad in this white wall room
Right.
or go somewhere else. And so I journeyed. And of course, I didn't realize I journeyed. I didn't realize I was playing with dead people and spirits and things like this. It was like, well, don't others do it? And I've
I
always,
do.
right, exactly. And so many do, but we didn't talk about it because, I even put it in the book with fear of the white coats, because back in those days, the
Right,
white
right.
coats would come to take you away. Ha ha. And and if not the white coats, it was how everybody else looked at you. And and it's like even today is I realize I've got family members that don't see Sarah. They see what they need to see of me for them, right? They're the person that
Oh,
they need. They don't necessarily see me, and that's okay. That's okay.
I,
Because,
right.
yeah,
No, yes, I can relate.
yes. They're missing out.
Well, yeah, again, some of the things we do are not typical and
Right.
and that's okay, but I don't want to be typical.
I don't want
So,
to be typical. I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be boxed. I don't want to be contained. I am wind. Let me
hello,
flow.
Sarah, I'm with
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Yes. Uh, the best work I do is when you set me free, right?
And that's
Yeah,
true.
and
Yeah,
that's the thing is that, I'm constantly saying to people, don't dictate, allow, allow. When you go into your presence and you allow it to show you, it allow that vision to come into fruition by trusting the inside out and not saying, okay, I was given this vision. Now I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And it's got to be done this way. No, that is the old ego way that's
right.
in the way, right? It's again, the heart and soul will extract what the mind needs to know in order to apply the vision
It's
they've given you.
right. And
Yeah.
it's so beautiful when that happens. Sometimes when I'm writing and I get stuck, I get up and I dance.
Yes. Let your
Because and
sillies
for
out.
some right and again it doesn't have to be the way I used to,
Right, exactly.
but it somehow centers me and elevates the creativity, and then
Mm.
I can go back and just be right there.
I mean, I've always said this, and I'm sure you will agree, is that when you are tense or anxious or fear, everything constricts.
Right.
No clarity, no answer can come to you into that. You're blocking your oxygen, you're blocking your chi, your energy, you're blocking any creative thought.
Right.
It is the deep breath, align the chakras, breathe it in, let it out, do it a few times. Just be present. Just be present. I don't care what tornado is going on around you, just be present, for the
Right.
answers come from there.
Beautiful. I'm also an energy master teacher, and working with energy is beautiful. And we
Mm,
have to recognize that our thoughts are energy, our
yes.
words are energy, our actions, and even and
Our
really,
essence is energy.
yes,
Yes.
all of that.
Yes.
And we have a way of taking a look at stepping back a little bit and saying, well, what am I putting out in the world?
Hmm.
Am I saying, terrible, and that's the energy I'm sending? Or look at the light, or look at the
Yes.
smile on that child. And again, that's so important to remember that everything is energy, and we have the capacity to look at what we're putting out there and shift it for ourselves and for others.
And I was talking earlier about obstacles that are put in our way. And, I was given a disease that is not curable, but manageable. I'll have it for the rest of my life. And it was like, okay, but why? Why have you given this to me? And I realized my energy, my spiritual energy was coming across too strong, too much.
Right.
And so it was given to me to dampen down my energy because in order for people to receive it and be able to
Right.
do something with it, they had to. Sorry, I've just put the microphone up full blast. They had to, you see the energy wanting to go up full blast there. It had to be subdued because otherwise it's too over the heads rather than speaking to the hearts. And so
Right.
when we're given something, again, it's not to punish you. You didn't do anything wrong, but there is a reason behind it. And, it's even understanding the pain I go through every day. It's understanding that when I'm pain free, I'm in such gratitude of that, right? There's so many things. It's like, is the glass half full or half empty? It's half full of water and it's half full of something else. It's not empty, right?
No, ever.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, we could talk for hours. You got to come
I
back on
know.
again. I really want you in the book, please. So
Thank you. Yes, I'd
I'm going to
love.
be sending all of that out in the next little while. You have so much to contribute into that. I'm a firm, 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 firm believer that if we pay attention to the families and the children from conception up,
Right.
we will have a society that will not be so troubled. And the reason we have a society that we have today is we do not teach, we do not hear our children, we do not give them a voice, we do not allow them to follow their gift. We make them conform. We dictate how they should learn or in what way they should learn or what they should do. And we don't support the parents because they feel, well, no, no, they've got to do, they've got to have A's or they're a failure. And all of that system is wrong. And
Right.
we need to look at things in a different way, and we need to start speaking out. So I really hope your voice comes and joins us.
I would love to. I got to tell you something real fast. There's a book called On the Night You Were Born. I don't know if you've ever heard it about it.
Mm,
I've read it to adults. But
mm,
it's basically it's on the night you were born, the stars came out and the moon celebrated, and it just goes on to give everybody who's reading it a sense of self-appreciation.
yeah.
And it's amazing that even adults, because I've read it to my
Yes.
friends over the phone, are the
Yeah.
tears because it's about recognizing the beauty within each of us. And
Right.
again, everything we've been talking about, and to celebrate that.
Yeah. I've just, Facebook does these posts that you've done from the past, and this one came up, and I read it again, and I had to cry again. I had to go redo my makeup before the show, and it's about a young girl, very poor, and she wanted to go into Sunday school, and it was full. And so the pastor said, "Nope, you're going in." She obviously looked poor, but she went in. And sometime later, the child died due to poverty, to
Right.
whatever. And what they found in a little red purse in her pocket with a little letter was that she'd raised 57 cents for them to build a bigger church so more
I'm gonna
children could go
cry.
to
Don't do
Sunday
that to
school.
me.
I know, I know, I know. What it ended up doing, because the pastor was so moved from it, I'm going to swell up as well. And it's not
Ah,
about the church or the religion, it's about the impact of this little girl.
right,
This
right.
philanthropist gave the church the land for 57 cents, right? And they raised money to 250,000 to build this bigger church, to have this big area that all children, no matter who they are, could go to it. The impact of that one child. Oh,
Amazing. Just beautiful.
and it's like, please never sell yourself short. Sometimes you have no idea the impact that you've had on someone. You may never know. You don't go looking for the accolades or the approval, or the justification. Just be the essence that you are, because you have no idea who you touch, what impact that has that you may never know, and whose life they're going to change because of it.
Beautiful. I love that. And that's so true. You are a gift,
Right back at you,
Sarah.
darling.
Thank you.
So, uh, although I could talk to you forever, and which certainly will be back on again. Let's give everybody your site and where they can buy the books and what you are offering people.
Okay, so drjoannewhite.com is my website, and basically one of the gifts that I have is a beautiful meditation to
Mm.
be able to go within and get to that place that we've been talking about, a place of peace, a place of quiet, where you can just feel self-soothed and be able to then handle the rest of your life, the rest of your day.
Recentering. We all
Yes,
need that. You're in the chaos, go into the eye, recenter, and then it doesn't matter what turmoil is going on around you. You can cope with anything, but you've got to recenter, and you need whatever it is that helps you get there, because we all need help. We all need
yeah.
something to recenter us, right? And having that
And- Right. And
meditation.
there's music and
Mm,
beautiful water. And so it's
mm,
very peaceful
yeah.
and soothing. And we need that.
We definitely need that. We need to learn how to not only access that, to use it. I always say these shows are for you to listen, learn, and apply. Uh,
Aha. Application is key, right?
huge. Nothing happens by just listening. You've now got to apply. Whether you apply one thing or everything, it doesn't
Right.
matter. It's just apply. Whether it's reading her books, or whether it's getting that meditation, or whether it's just something that, the inspiration from this whole journey that she shared with us here today, it's feeding you, it's teaching you. Now, apply it in some way so that it can help you be more than what you are. Now, Joanne is spelled Joanne, Dr. Joanne White. That was my mother's name, Joanne. And if you go to go to her site and also put in products, you'll see all of her books there where you can buy directly from the site. You can also buy it from Amazon as well by putting in her name. And she's also a contributor to the Power of Your Life shows and featured contributor of Biz Catalyst 360 as well. Tell us about the Power of Life shows.
So I have a radio show right now that's called Power Your Life, and you're going to be on it.
Yay! Look forward to
And
that.
I am too. And basically, it's bringing on many different people who have ways of helping us power our lives in whether it's relationships and feeling good about yourself, in business, in all different ways. And that's on Wednesdays.
And how do people find it?
So basically, it's on Blog Talk Radio,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also on my website because every time we have replays on the website.
Mm-hmm. Great. So they can catch it on either way.
Yeah.
But all of your shows will be here on your website. And so whether, people can catch up on all of the
Yeah,
shows,
there
etc.
are many years of shows.
Yes. I used to be with Blog Talk. That's how I started out until I went to being
I'm
my own
getting
network.
ready. Well, let's talk about that because I'm getting ready for something else, I think. It's time. It's time. We'll see what that is.
That's the thing is that when you are actually centered and aware, and you've written that book about senses, all of our senses become in tuned. And the thing is that I'm a possibility seeker. I see possibilities all the
Right.
time. And the thing is the opportunity and the possibility. And we never know what we could do or what could come of something unless we try, unless we investigate, unless we open up
Right.
to it. And sometimes maybe it's the wrong time, and sometimes it's perfect timing, but you don't know unless you're willing to just reach out there and pull the veil back.
Take that step.
Yes.
That's important.
Blind, deaf, and dumb in order to see, hear, and feel.
I love it.
That's the way I've leaped in all my life. Again, I used to think being uneducated, not having the smarts was something against me. And then I realized through life, through experiences, that not only my life experience was my teacher, but also being reliant on my intuition, being reliant on my soul and heart's wisdom. It always took me down the right path. And that actually, when I just sat and thought, that's when I made the wrong decisions.
And that's so important. I teach people too how to be able to access that inner guidance
Mm,
because when you do, it's like having a support system that you didn't even realize was there
yes,
for the taking.
exactly. Exactly. So it's been utter delight. I can't wait to do
My
more with
pleasure.
you. It was
Thank you so
it
much.
was you were up there on LinkedIn, and it was like, I'm sure I know her. And it was honestly, I was meant to know you. So that was it. Again, a sign, folks, and follow through. I've asked people to be on my show that a lot of people say, well, yeah, you can't ask them. They're too famous or they're too busy, or they're too that. If you don't ask, you
You
don't
know,
know. And I've
right.
had some incredible people on here that are just beautiful, extraordinary people sharing their lives, and they haven't bought into their own hierarchy. They're just humble,
Well,
following their mission and their passion.
PhD is piled higher and deeper. That's
Yes, I like that. Yeah. A quick thing. I remember talking to a woman for a good 10 minutes where she talked about every degree that she had. 10 minutes, seriously. And she was in her 50s. And I said, well, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. I think I'll go back to school.
uh,
And it's just like, what a waste. What a waste.
yeah.
You're not doing anything with it. And yet you take some of the entrepreneurs today and the innovators and the shakers today, they've got a gut feeling. They want to do something and they get out and find a way to do it. And they bring the people around them that are going to help them do it. And they get it done.
And it's not even about a degree. It's
No,
about passion and a purpose. And yeah,
I have a degree from the hard knocks of life.
and I love it. And you are a beautiful soul,
Right
Sarah.
back at you, my darling.
Totally.
Right back at you. And of course, we coordinated today in red. We didn't even know, but here we are, right? So definitely soul sisters. We're going to do a lot more
Yes, we
together
are.
for sure. But
Thank you
it has
so
been an utter delight having you here today.
much.
Folks, please don't forget, go to her site, which is drjoannewhite.com. And when you go into products, you'll see all of her books and you can see the TV and the radio show there. Obviously come back here and you'll see everything that she's got here. Wonderful. Love it. Loved every minute of it, my darling. Loved every minute of it.
Likewise, you're a gift, and I've had so much fun. I'm not ready to go. No,
No, we're going to do more. We're
I
going
gotta
to do
get to
more.
work. Okay,
Yes,
good.
yeah, you're going to come back for sure. So, folks, I know you've enjoyed the energy. And what we've talked about here today is the differently abledness, that it doesn't matter how different you are to everyone else. Stop wasting your life trying to fit into somebody else's expectation. Just be your own beautiful essence self. You are the gift that we are seeking. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tab at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.